We'll be very nice and not name the executive who almost took a nap on Shonda Rhimes. I won't say it. I'm not saying it, but he almost slept on Shonda Rhimes. Almost didn't air that pilot. You can do your research and find out who it was.
Yeah. Anywho.
Imagine being that guy.
I think he still is that guy.
Yeah.
I think he owns a vineyard now in Napa. Anywho.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
No, you. You start. You're more professional.
You don't have a good memory.
No.
Okay, so let's start there. Do you have a memory of when we met? Because I was thinking, and I don't remember when we met.
I don't have a specific memory of the first time, but I remember that first week before we started filming the pilot. And I remember Peter Horton had us doing all those actor exercises. Didn't we do the falling back and the trust falls?
Forgot.
And then we sat in a circle and laid our heads in each other's laps and I don't know, it was all trust exercises.
That's right. Yeah. Good memory.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember you had my baby shower for me.
I did.
That was very nice.
By the way, I still have all those photos. I meant to put together an album for you. I know it's been 13 years, but it's not too late, is it?
No.
Okay, great. I'll send that off to you.
Are you kidding? I would love those photos.
You would love the photos. And they still pop up sometimes like this time 13 years ago. And it just brings back so many incredible memories. You were so pregnant and
I was.
Everyone was there, the crew, the cast. It was really kind of a great day.
So how old is your oldest?
My oldest, Nayli Moon, is 14. So she was just a year older. Almost exactly. Isn't Stella September?
Yes.
Baby?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Nayli came to us at 9 months around September, and you were just about to have Stella Luna. So we were kind of in the boat together. It was really interesting.
So has Nayli seen the show?
No. No, I haven't gone there yet with her. Stella has, right? You've watched it together.
In 6th grade, which I thought was a bit crazy, knowing what's in those
I remember.
seasons especially. I was like, oh, in 6th grade, they've all seen. And she was like, Mom, I'm the only one who hasn't seen it. It's a little embarrassing and weird.
So crazy.
So I said, okay. So in the summer, she started watching it. And at first I was like, oh, this is so amazing, and we're gonna watch it together. And then it was episode after episode after episode, and I was just like, I don't have the stamina for this. I filmed all these episodes. I did it. I can't now go back and watch it again. I mean, I watched a lot of them, and what's interesting is I had not really watched a lot of Grey's because we were always working.
When I was on, I watched every episode when it aired. I was anxious to see how it all turned out,
Yeah, see, me, that was not good for my mind to do that, so I avoided that. So many of the episodes I was seeing for the first time with Stells.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's pretty cool to be a part of something that's lasted this long.
I bet.
That now they can go back and see, when you see your daughter's face and she watches you. I mean, a lot of people don't have the privilege to be able to say, oh, their kids get to see what they do every day.
Yeah.
Right? You can talk about that with her and watch it with her, And
but I feel like I would just be, there would be scenes that I would be so embarrassed to be sitting next to her watching.
Yeah, for sure that.
There's a few that I'd be like, when we fast forward to this moment.
Yeah, the sex with the ghost.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, the sex with the
maybe
ghost,
that.
right.
Maybe
Remember the
maybe
deer?
the oral sex with the ghost while somebody else was watching in the room. I don't know.
I didn't want to get
I don't know how I
graphic,
explain that.
But I remember there was one episode with a deer.
Oh, God.
Do you remember the deer?
Yes, and I worked with that deer again years later. Can you believe it? I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I'm serious. I worked with that deer years later on a different show I was doing. And it was this moment where my character is driving in a car and this beautiful deer stops and crosses the road, a dark road with no one around, but in the city. And she has this moment, and I'm like, I know that deer. I saved that deer on Grey's Anatomy.
Really?
Yeah.
You knew for sure it was the same
No,
deer?
they
Oh.
told me.
Oh, they told you?
But it would be amazing if I had recognized the
Well,
deer.
because Hollywood deers have resumes.
Yeah, absolutely. They were like, Catherine, remember when you took this photo with the deer? This is the same deer. Yeah, good times.
We also had a lion on the show once, too.
I don't think I was there for that.
There was, I don't know what episode or what season, but there was a scene with Meredith in a car, and a lion just crosses the street.
Why?
I don't know.
Neat. Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
The imagery, just gorgeous.
19 seasons. I'm surprised there isn't a giraffe. I mean,
Good times.
really good. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a way to make a living. For sure.
Yeah.
Very serious way.
Yeah, really serious work. Very
Yes.
serious. When did you know that Grey's was a hit?
The first indication was, do you remember we filmed the whole first season?
Yeah.
It was going to air on Sunday night after Desperate Housewives.
That's right.
And then we came into work the next day and everybody was freaking out. The ratings
Because
were
the numbers
huge.
were so good.
Yeah, and then those numbers, I mean, I don't even know if people can count that high anymore back then. Those are, when you look at
Yeah.
network numbers now, you're like,
I know.
but
Everything's
yeah, and
changed.
then we went on hiatus.
Yes.
And then the show was airing
Yes.
as we were on break.
That's
I'm
what,
so
like-
grateful there was no social media then.
I know.
We literally would be,
I know, me
we would have
too.
lost our minds,
I
even
know.
more than we already lost our
Yeah.
minds.
Yeah, it didn't take a lot.
No.
And that was really just gonna throw it way over the edge. No, I just remember that I was nervous, at least. I think that they were not gonna air it. There was a moment where it was unclear if they were gonna air it. They didn't like it.
Remember they changed the name? They tried to change the name. Do you remember that day on set?
No.
That is a day I really remember because the mood on set was like, oh, they're going to change the name of the show to Complications. And it was just like somebody had died and everybody on set felt that we've been working so hard, we love this show so much, and if they change the name to this, it'll never go. It's a horrible title. And it was just this collective like mourning on set.
Yeah.
But that only lasted for a day or two.
I don't
and then
even,
they
yeah,
put it
that's
back.
like, I don't quite remember that, but I just remember them like, it felt like the network or the studio, somebody didn't quite like what we were doing.
Yes.
And it was unclear if they were even going to air it. And then they did, and just what you said happened, and then we had to go to upfronts. And everything had changed.
And
Happy to be here. This is
we'll
great.
be very nice and not name the executive who almost took
Hold
a
it.
nap on Shonda Rhimes. I won't say it. I'm not saying it, but he almost slept on Shonda Rhimes. Almost didn't air that pilot. You
Yeah.
can do your research and find out who it was. but
Yeah. Yeah. Anywho. Anyway. so
Imagine
then-
being that guy.
I think he still is that guy.
Yeah.
I think he owns a vineyard now in Napa. Anywho, so then we ended up in New
And now he's
York.
in the liquor store.
So then we ended up in New York for the upfronts, going to promote the second season or, do that whole thing. And it was crazy, Ellen. People were stopping us on the street, like New Yorkers were stopping us on the street to tell us how much they love the show. And it was truly water cooler like experience for.
Yeah. Have you
for-
been to New York? It's still happening. You can't
Yeah.
believe it. You're like, wait, what is? Am
Yeah,
I
but
in a-
now they're all like 14. It's
Yeah. Yes. Now they're all 14. It's true.
But it was incredible. I was just so incredibly relieved. I was just thrilled in every sense of the word. I was like on cloud nine because it just felt like a lifetime of trying to get something into the world that people actually wanted to watch. And like overnight, that show hit.
And you had been on Roswell before that.
And that had a very small,
How many seasons?
very
did
devoted
you do
audience.
of Roswell?
We did 3, I think. Yeah, 3, just 3 seasons. And that's wonderful and great, but it didn't have a big audience, which is why we didn't have more seasons and why we were always like afraid, is it gonna go another season? It's always that anxiety, of am I gonna be out of a job? And Grey's turned it all around, literally overnight. And it wasn't overnight for any of us, but the success of the show was almost overnight. which is crazy.
Yeah, that anxiety is why I stayed for so long, is like that thought of all actors have that, figure out when the next job is and where do I have to go and where.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you are, like, as soon as one ends, that you're out of work.
Right.
And you might feel confident that you'll get more work, but you are in the moment out of work. So you better be prepared for that, you know? And that's the nature of this particular job.
Yeah.
But like, do you feel with Meredith, like, are you letting her go or is she coming with you?
Oh no, I have been on the show so long, I'm happy to let that go.
Yeah.
You know, we're past that point. The truth is, what becomes challenging is, for me, I really need to make sense of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I really need to see evolution and growth.
Mm-hmm.
And with network television specifically, there has to be some consistency for the audience. The audience wants familiarity. The writers get stuck in the consistency of something, and it's harder, which we have such an incredible fan base. They're so loyal. They'll literally come along with us no matter what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay for Meredith to stop making bad decisions or, you know, be able to, like, one of my frustrations is sort of the Nick and Meredith of it all. Scott Speedman plays Meredith's love interest. Nick Marsh, and I love Speedman, he's fantastic. And somehow Meredith can't figure out how to make a relationship work still after all this time.
Yeah.
And I guess if she were to make it work, then where's the conflict?
Where's the drama?
You know, there has to be conflict. And it's not that I don't think there shouldn't be conflict. There should be conflict. I guess I just have different ideas about what the conflict should be.
What that looks like.
Yeah.
I called, you know.
I know. This has been a lot. A fire, living in a hotel, moving.
No, I know it's been a lot, but what was your plan? You're just gonna leave and not call me back? And you're gonna move across the country without a conversation? I don't get that.
Felt so happy to be able to step away.
Yeah.
And felt like I accomplished something incredible everywhere.
did.
As I'm sure everywhere you go. I mean,
Yes.
people just run up to me and say, I love you. And
Yeah.
it's weird and strange, but it's just love coming
Oh,
at
it's
me.
so lovely. And it's, what I find disconcerting is how young those people are that are coming up
Yes.
now. I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, I don't understand how you've even seen this show. I don't think you were alive when we started it.
Right,
You
Netflix.
know? Netflix. And it took me a minute. I'm a little slow. But I finally figured out, like, oh, they're streaming it on Net. That's why they're watching it on Netflix, this younger generation. And I had this girl, I had just had Joshua. So maybe I didn't look my best, all right? I literally just had him, but I was in the liquor store. Again, I just had a baby. I needed some wine. And this man comes up to me and goes, excuse me, I'm so sorry, but my daughter is such a, you know, she's kind of freaking out over here. Would you mind talking to her for a minute? And I was like, yes, of course, sure. Come on over, honey. You know, and she goes, are you, do you know Grey's Anatomy? And I was like, I do, yeah. And she goes, do you know Izzy Stevens? And I go, yes, I do. And she goes, are you her mother? I was like, how old are you? She was like, I'm 17. I was like, go away. Don't ever talk to me again. But that's what's happening. I mean, thankfully that hasn't happened again, but it's 17-year-olds and 15-year-olds and, you know, seriously kids that were not born when we started the show coming up and going, oh my God, are you the girl on Grey's Anatomy, right? And it's shocking and wonderful and lovely and adorable that they love it so much, but they do. I mean, perhaps there are other shows that have had that kind of rebirth with a younger generation, especially because of Netflix and that your ability to go and stream something that
A lot of them. Friends.
Oh yeah, Friends, of course.
Gossip Girl is a big one.
Really?
Kids love Gossip Girl. That's what Stella's watching right now.
I don't know. I watched that when it was on, and I don't want Nayli to know that kids can do that kind of stuff.
Oh, she's gonna find it on TikTok.
I'm sure she already is well aware.
She's gonna know.
I prefer my bubble.
Have you seen Euphoria?
No.
Oh.
I mean, no.
don't.
We are definitely not watching that.
No,
That's
no.
very upsetting. I tried, and it's a no. No.
So, okay, so this is a real thing. So my daughter and her friends, you know, they sit around and they're like, oh, she's a pick-me girl.
Oh my God.
like,
is that what that means?
Yes. So I'm like, what's a pick-me girl?
Oh no.
So they were like, you know,
Pick me.
girls who are like,
Choose me.
pick me, choose me. And I'm like, hello, do you know who invented the pick-me girl? And listen,
incredible.
I don't know if you remember that I fought that speech so hard.
Yes, I
That's
do.
another like really interesting thing about life is some things that I was like so against. And I was like, why would I beg a man? I can't beg a man on TV.
I
This
know.
is so embarrassing.
It's so hard, right?
And then it turns out to be like one of the most successful scenes or the most famous
was
scenes
beautiful.
ever.
So pick me. Choose me. Love me.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that that's what that meant because my daughter has said it to me. And I said,
Oh.
what does that mean? She's a pick-me girl. And she goes, well, you know, she's just like wants a lot of attention and wants people to like pick her, choose her. And I was like, oh, and it didn't register.
Right.
And now I'm like, it's crazy. It's crazy when art starts to like bleed into your life. Do you remember the scene? I remember my mom called you after you'd done a particularly complicated, difficult, emotional scene and had like called to tell you how proud of you she was and that she thought you did just such a beautiful job with it. And I was talking to her about it recently because she obviously, she says hello, by the way.
I
She
love
just loves you.
Nancy so much.
But
Nancy should have her own show.
yeah,
She's-
we've joked about her having a podcast or something and she wants to call it Just My Opinion. And I went, please don't do this. It will end everything. Anyway, but I don't remember. I said, Mom, what scene was it? And she was like, I think it was with her mother, like on the episode with Kate. Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I've always had an incredible relationship with your mother. Yeah. We've always gotten along great.
Yeah, she just loves you. My mother loves strong women.
Yeah, she is a hoot. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Your mother.
Well, she just loves you. And there were so many wonderful things that came out of the show, like those kinds of relationships. And we did have a lot of fun, sometimes too much fun. I remember a lot
Friday
of...
nights were sometimes a little too much fun.
A little too much
Fraturdays.
fun. Yeah.
With like, you have to understand, like people, you have to understand. It's like a Friday night, 2 in the morning, and you gotta run real cow bowel. Does anybody know what running cow bowel is?
Cow bowel is. Yeah.
See, it's like the intestines, and you have to find Judy dolls.
That's
Remember the
right.
Judy
Oh,
dolls?
Jesus, yeah.
But we used to use, this is terrible, and Katie would always advocate and try to speak up and say things, but we used a lot of real animal parts
Yeah.
in the surgeries back in the day. And what happens is, after hours and hours and hours under the lights, you know, it obviously starts to smell terrible. You're wearing a mask, so that helps. But it's just not the most pleasant experience. And your feet are tired, and you're staring at this cow heart and bowel, and it's just like,
Brains.
yeah,
I just remember by like, I want to say season 2, we'd become so desensitized to it in a way that we would like take our second meal and we'd be standing on our marks, like eating like ramen over the cow intestines. They'd be like, okay, we're ready to go. And you'd be like, okay, thank you so much for looking for the Judy dolls, you know? Like, we just stopped caring. It was that's when you know that you're like, I need a break.
you know,
Things have gone too far.
that's actually the one place in the OR is when memories will come flooding back to me.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
And I think every one of us sort of ended up on that table, didn't we?
yeah, for sure.
I think every one of us.
On it many
You were the
times.
first patient of Seattle, like first doctor that became a patient of Seattle Grace, right?
Did I get blown up? No. I
No, you
get
didn't
blown
blow up.
I almost blew up.
You
I
almost blew up,
Katie. But Kyle Chandler blew up.
but then he
instead.
blew up. Yeah.
No, he didn't blow up. Oh, no,
he did blow up.
Right, he
Yeah,
blew up.
he blew
Okay,
up.
Yeah.
And then Sandra,
Yeah,
I think,
coming.
ended and then Sandra ended up in the hospital bed because she had a utopic, how do you say that?
Ectopic
pregnancy.
right.
I remember that because I didn't even know that kind of thing could happen.
Kudos to Shonda Rhimes for talking
Yeah.
about that stuff.
Yeah. No,
You know-
kudos to Shonda for changing the entire dialogue of network television at a time that really didn't have women in those kinds of roles or positions in the story. Didn't have as much diversity. I was young. I wasn't paying that much attention. It felt like a job, but a great job, but a job. I didn't realize it was as impactful, as it kind of was.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Yes, always.
It gives you great perspective, and it's definitely a gift to have that.
There's so many memories, so many really good memories, so many times where we laughed so much and so hard, and the crew was so mad at us because we couldn't pull our shit together to get through a take,
I remember the prom.
Yes.
That prom, sleeping on the
floor of the hospital.
Of that VA hospital in Northridge.
Yep.
I remember cutting the LVAD wire.
Oh, yeah?
In that room.
That was on
where you were
set.
filming that scene. Meredith wasn't in that scene.
That's right, you come in after.
But I was like standing in the hallway when you were guys, and there was like, no one actually even wanted you to do that scene. We're like, no, change it. Like, let's do anything to change it. Let's not actually film this happening.
I just that whole storyline was so intriguing to me, and it was really fun. It was fun to do, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a dream to work with and a great guy, and that was all really fun. And I wanted so badly to nail that scene, right? I just wanted it to feel the way it was written on the page. I wanted it to be as heart-wrenching and all of the things. And I don't usually do this as an actor. I don't do that whole go into the dark place and listen to the the music that's gonna tear my soul apart and think about all the things in my life and the worst was that I really went there and recalled, because I was 7 when my brother died, but we were in the hospital for a week, and I don't enjoy thinking about that much, or that week in the hospital, or him in that bed, but I chose to do that for that scene, and I don't think I would put myself in that headspace again to achieve that. I think I would try harder to just act it,
Well, but those moments are what made the show as iconic as it is.
Right.
I think that's why it's still around.
Yeah.
Because of the foundation that we laid was so strong.
Well, you're all welcome.
I think it was, albeit painful, but worth it.
Yeah.
Because art is always worth it, because people watch that scene and it's cathartic for them. They feel something, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Most people have lost people, and everybody loves a good cry. So
yeah,
we made people feel things, Katie, and that is the biggest gift as an actor, to be able to make people feel.
Yeah.
Is, I think, pretty cool.
I do too. I think it's the point for me, at least. I just want to go out there and do that.
Yeah.
This is what I do for a living,
So you live in Utah, and do you ever bring Nayli or the kids here to LA?
Let's see, I haven't been back to LA except today in 2 years. A lot of filming now is in the last 2 projects I've done have been Canada. I can't bring them as much anymore because they're 14 and 11, and to take them out of their peer groups and their school groups and their activities, they're just not down for it in the same way they used to be. It kind of breaks my heart.
Yeah, for sure. It's got to be. It's lonely.
It is a very gypsy-like lifestyle, but now with the kids and being a mother, it's I don't want to go alone. And I did go alone for all of Firefly Lane, and it was brutal. And I'm parenting via FaceTime. And at one point, I didn't even have my dogs.
So let's talk about Firefly Lane.
Okay.
So there were 2 books written for Firefly Lane, or 3?
Yes, there are 2 books. The
Okay.
first is Firefly Lane, and then I didn't actually read the second book because it's post the story we were telling.
Okay.
So we didn't tell that book. We didn't get into that story. But yeah, it has a very definitive ending. Kate dies. So, shit, I'm so sorry. Did I ruin that for everyone? It's brutal.
But
It's so brutal.
The amazing thing about streaming is there is a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
on network television. The challenge is,
Yeah, you don't know. You have no idea going into network, are we going to have the opportunity to really tell this whole story, or are we going to end before we could begin?
Right.
Or are we going to go so long and be unprepared to continue the story? So with streaming, that was my first experience doing anything for streaming, and it was I mean, I loved it. I had an extraordinary experience.
And you're a
Great.
producer on that as
Yes,
well.
yeah. This is Tully Hart, bringing the news straight to you. That's good. This is Tully, Hart, about to burn the office down with my curling iron. This is Tully Hart, bringing the news straight to you. It's odd what they're doing. So essentially it's a season 2 that they shot 16 episodes and then decided to air in 2 parts. So let's just call it 3 seasons. And because that's what it feels like to me.
Right. That's a
So
lot of episodes, though, for a streaming show, 16 episodes.
It was, and I think it was like always intended conceivably that they would split it into 2 parts.
Okay.
But I liked it and I didn't, it's the same, it's 9 months, or I guess maybe a little less than 9 months, because Grey's is about 9 months a year, right? For those 24 episodes.
We do less episodes now. Since
Oh, do you?
COVID, we've never done 24 again, but
Because that's brutal. It's like, that's most of the year, and you're on set and you're committed and you're in it at least 12 hours a day. And so anything else kind of has to fall to the back. But the good part of that was just you're in the rhythm of it. We're already here, we're already filming. Let's get those last 6 instead of having to come back and re-team up.
And the scripts are already written when you start? Are they finished? Or are the writers?
Many of them, which I also really like.
Yes.
So we had at least the first 4 already written and ready before we started filming. I always felt with network television, you're always like right down to the wire with that script coming in night before we start shooting the episode, which just feels like sensory overload sometimes and frenetic. But I can't even imagine what those writers have to go through to do that. I don't think that they could have dropped all 16 at once. It would have been overwhelming, I feel. I think the audience needed a breath before this last bit because it gets really heavy.
Intense.
Yeah.
And then you at least are able to shake that right off and go home and be with your kids.
It took a minute. Yeah. I had a hard time letting Tully go. Like, it was hard to disassociate or something. Oh, I know, women aren't supposed to be angry. Hurt or sad, sure. But angry, oof, better hide it. Better lock that up. But I am angry with the man who is suing me. He took my show. He took my voice, so I'm taking it back. There was so much about her that really intimidated me. She's incredibly confident. She's incredibly self-assured. She's got a bit of an ego on her, and she's just really, like, walks into any situation, feeling like she's gonna kill it. And I just thought, I don't know, I related more to Kate and the struggle between, like, being a working mother and all of that. And I remember at the time Josh said, Katie, you want to, you're looking for a character that feels challenging to you, do the one that scares you. And I was like, okay. And then I ended up really borrowing a lot of Tully for me. And so then I felt like, having to let her go, am I going to lose those bits of her that influenced who I've become? And I just really fell in love with that friendship and fell in love with Sarah Chalky and Chalk. She calls herself Chalky. She confuses me.
That's like therapy you get paid for.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. Exactly. Well, tell me about, because there's a couple of things I've been sort of fascinated as I've gotten older, as I've kind of evolved as an actor, and the idea of directing really interested me, and still interests me to a degree, but I find it really intimidating. How did that come about on Grey's?
So I think around season 12, Shonda Rhimes brought in Debbie Allen. With any long-running show, you need gusts of wind to blow in, right? To shake things up and try to keep the energy alive and keep it going in a positive direction. And she could, see that I was restless. And so she suggested it. She's a, big director among every other thing that she does. And she was really encouraging me to do it.
That's awesome.
And I love her so much. So I was like, you know what, for you, I will do it. And she taught me, how to do that first one. So that was like, having one of the best teachers you can have.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting experience. The script that I ended up getting, it was about a character losing their mother. Kelly McCreary's mother would pass away, played by LaTanya Jackson. And me losing my mother at such a young age has shaped my whole entire life.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is kind of wild. It was a really amazing episode, and to her credit, Shonda let my cut air.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which is really unusual.
Yes.
Definitely,
Always,
she did
yeah.
not have to do that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I went to Las Vegas last night to see a show, and somebody stopped me and said, the episodes you directed were my favorite.
Oh, that's
And
incredible.
No one's ever said that to me before, so that was kind of cool. So I did that episode, my cut aired, and why I loved it was because it's showing the audience what my version of an episode of Grey's Anatomy looks like.
Yeah.
Which is what I always thought. If I'm going to direct episodes, this is what it should be. And then I did it one more time, and it was completely changed. And I thought it didn't really make sense for me to do all of that work
Right.
than to have someone come in and say, we're not going to use that, we're going to use this, we're not going to use that song, we're going to use this song. And then it didn't look anything like what I had envisioned.
Right.
And so it didn't make sense to do all that work and not have...
Keep it going, yeah.
Yeah. So then I don't do it anymore. I would say that you shouldn't be intimidated. The truth is on a show like Grey's, it's so established, it has to be a certain formula, right?
Well, where's the fun in that? You know,
It's not very creative.
Right.
Network TV directing is not, it's not a creative thing. It's really
So then
just
is it about more like that conversation with the actors? Is it more about like the music? Like where do you get to put your creative stamp on it?
I wouldn't say network TV is the place to do that.
Okay.
Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule. I think Alaska Daily is a beautifully directed show. It's on ABC, and it stars Hilary Swank.
You've just given me something to watch, thank you.
Yeah.
I've just been reading lately.
Ooh, so what's the last thing you watched that you loved?
Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
Taylor
God.
Jenkins Reid, yeah.
God, I loved that so much.
Did you read the books?
I did years ago, and I remember my sister-in-law like texted like, "Josh would be a great Billy Graham," and I was like, "Have you seen Josh on camera? he doesn't do much acting." I thought that was hilarious, but so I was really intrigued to see it actually on film, and I thought they did such a beautiful job with that. I was riveted. I loved it so much. And no, I did not watch that with the kids. I mean, because I'm always looking for something that we can watch as a family. I mean, we've got some big age, differences. I did watch Ginny and Georgia with Naylee, but I had to stop it a lot.
Right, we're gonna fast forward through that part.
Or just even be like, can I explain this moment to you? Because,
I
I
didn't watch it.
It's great. I loved it. It's really fun. And I actually loved watching it with her because I felt like it gave me an opportunity to do some guidance through TV storylines. It's my favorite way to parent. But it's not for Adelaide. It's not for the 11-year-old. And my 6-year-old, of course, is not going to watch it. So there's not a lot we can watch together aside from animated. But what do you watch other than Grey's with Stella?
I don't watch a lot with Stella, except, we were watching Grey's. I loved White Lotus, which I didn't let her watch. I thought that was amazing. Did you watch it?
I watched like the first maybe 4 or 5 episodes, and then I don't know why we stopped. We must have
You
been
have
traveling.
to watch season 2. It's so good.
Okay.
And then the other perfect show was a show called The Offer. And I can't believe it's about the making of The Godfather.
Oh my God, yes.
Did you watch it?
Yes.
I can't believe every single actor on that
Yes.
show didn't get every award nomination. I just thought they
Agreed.
were so
They were incredible.
good.
And so was our Justin
Our
Chambers.
Justin Chambers
Oh my
playing
God, he was
Marlon Brando.
so good.
He was so good. And like he literally looks just like him. And I've always said that. We've always said that about him.
Yeah, we kind of always did the sort of like, you're the Marlon,
Yeah.
like that's crazy because he really nailed it and it was so fun to see him in that role.
It was
really
a great
good.
show.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 favorites recently.
Excellent. Okay. So yeah, Ellen, I mean, it is really sort of devastating for the world that Meredith has left Seattle Grace.
Well, this is very thoughtful. And ridiculous, because I'm only going to Boston, and I'll probably be here next week.
For God's sakes, Gray, will you just let us toast you?
Meredith Grey!
First of all, what was it like that last day on set?
So it's a little bit of trickery, because I'm not completely gone.
What?
I am in the finale.
Oh my God.
The storyline is very cool. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a lot of real research that's changing very rapidly about Alzheimer's disease and about what they believe is the cause of Alzheimer's disease. It's pretty controversial. So Meredith's character left to go to Boston because her daughter needed to go to a special school. And Jesse Williams' character, Jackson, lives in Boston, and he offered her a job to work at that hospital and do research. So the character moves to Boston, and then in the finale, we catch up with her and see what she's been working on.
Oh, fascinating.
And then
I
I
love
will
this.
be making some appearances, hopefully next year.
Okay, so we
if I
don't
can
have to
find some
completely say
time.
goodbye.
No, it's not a complete.
Okay.
It's not a complete goodbye. And I think we've got an interesting story to tell. I certainly think it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
The medical piece of it is pretty fascinating. And then I just have to. I'm going to shoot a show for Hulu.
Yeah. So you're going to do that in between.
We're going to start that in September. We're going to
Okay.
start the Hulu show in September. And the working title is The Orphan. Going to be a very interesting role to play. I mean, I haven't played another character in 18 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy town. Crazy town. And this one is, it's intense. And so it'll be an interesting experiment for me to see. You know, I'm super excited to do it. I love the team. It's been really fun to develop something new. And, you know, we're just going to cross our fingers and jump out of the plane and pull the chute and hope that shit opens.
Yeah,
You know?
I love it. I love it, but that's
All
kind of
we
how
can
you, I've seen from you that you kind of approach things like that. You don't let much stop you, Miss Ellen. I think that's amazing.
No.
And it makes me think about the first movie I ever saw you in, and I was sort of just enamored instantly. And I feel like the world was in Moonlight Mile. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, you were working with Dustin Hoffman and Susan Sarandon and Jake Gyllenhaal. Was that at all intimidating? Or
Oh, I completely choked my first day on set. I was terrified. And I was just...
really, I can't picture it.
I really, you know, it was like Al Pacino's moment on The Godfather when the studio was like, what's he doing? Get him out of there. They were like, what are you doing? We're gonna get fired. You are gonna get fired. I like couldn't pull it together. On my first day, I had like a 9-page scene where I'm like jumping in the mailbag, grabbing the cat, walking over here. And I couldn't walk and talk at the same time. I like just showed up in this movie with all these people, Holly Hunter and Susan and Dustin. Yeah, I really choked and almost got fired that first day. They were just like, we got a live one here.
Oh my God.
Snap out of it, kid.
And you did.
And then I did. Someone came and talked to me in my trailer at lunch. Oh, I think it was Dustin. And he said, you only need to be good in very small pieces. They're gonna shoot this and they edit it.
Right.
Stop thinking, because it was an 8-page, it was super intimidating because it was 8 pages. And I was thinking I had to
Nail it. all
nail
way
the
through.
whole entire thing all the way through.
Yeah.
And he was like, you only have to be good in pieces. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself.
Wow.
And that was amazing advice. I give it to people now. I gave it to the new cast of interns that came onto Grey's.
Yeah.
It stayed with me, that piece of advice.
That's great advice.
And
I'm gonna remember it.
and the movie turned out okay.
It's it's beautiful.
So one of the things that is so obvious about Grey's and why the show has impacted people so much is because we were so emotional, right? We were able to generate so much emotion. And it always results in amazing performances, whether actors are torturing themselves or we're torturing each other. The result is good, and the writers know that. And when Izzy left, there was just so much going on. And it's really hard to show up on set when there's so much, and then there wasn't even social media. There's
I know.
so much attention.
crazy.
Can you even imagine? Because it felt like there was a lot of attention on everything we did all the time.
There was.
And everything was amplified. And that added to the emotion, and somehow that made the scenes better, and that made the show better, and that made the show more popular. And then Izzy leaves the show. And that was emotional for everybody.
Yeah, I think I was like up here, you know, in my headspace, in my gut, in my mind, in my life. I was just vibrating at way too high of a level of anxiety. So for me, it's kind of all a bit of a blur. And it took me years to learn how to deal with that, to master it. Well, I can't even say that I've mastered it. But to even know to work on it, that kind of anxiety and fear. And just, stress is stress. Everybody experiences stress. Everybody goes through those times in their lives. And if you leave stress too long unmanaged and unaddressed, it can be debilitating.
But I also feel like, and this is not specific to the character of Izzy leaving, but stress on sets. I know a lot of actors, I hear a lot of stories. I don't hear about a lot of support.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I try to do now as a producer, is specifically on Grey's, is try to offer support, try to have a place for people to talk through things, to talk about
huge.
things, for actors to feel heard.
That's huge.
Because the anxiety and the stress is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And actors are typically young
Yeah.
and emotional creatures and are meant to just get on with it and deal with it. There's no examples of positivity. There was no one teaching me how to behave.
Right.
There was no one to tell me this is okay, this is not okay. You see someone doing this, oh, well, okay, well, I'll just do that because that seems to work. It was just look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. Let's look at it.
Right.
But let's all just stand around and look at it and talk about it, but let's not actually try to do something meaningful to
solve it.
calm it down.
Yeah.
And I worry about young actors when I see things. I see young actors on shows or you hear things or whatever, and you just know that there's probably not a lot of support.
Yeah.
If they're portraying drug addicts on shows and everybody knows they're a drug addict in real life. And everybody knows, and it's like, we're fine to exploit that because it's a successful show and it's making a lot of money and no one really cares, and that person could end up dead, and then everybody will be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoa. We didn't see that coming, really, because probably everybody
Yeah.
saw it coming.
Yeah.
There's a very exploitive nature to what we do.
Yeah.
Thank God now, there are, intimacy coordinators create a whole nother slew of problems. But the intention behind it is good.
Yeah.
The execution is always sometimes weird because how do you train to be an intimacy coordinator?
I had this experience on Firefly Lane. I'm like, I'm an old Hollywood broad, bitch. I know what I'm doing. You don't have to tell me how to make out on camera, okay? It was like, I was so awkward about it. I was like, this is such an odd conversation. And I ended up loving this woman so deeply and being so grateful for her because she protected us in a way that I didn't realize how unprotected we were. I didn't even really quite realize having somebody else stand there and say, she won't do that.
Right.
Find another way to shoot it. I was like,
Or find another way to write it.
This is great. I
Find
don't have to
another
be
way
the
to
bad
write it.
guy, and she's protecting me. And I was so grateful to her as well because we did have young girls on the set. They were playing Kate and Tully at 14 and 15, and they had, stuff they had to do. There was a rape scene, and for her to be there protecting them, I was like, oh, I felt this weight off of me in a way that I didn't feel like I had to somehow find a way to fight those battles for these girls. And, I'm always the bad guy. It's just, people like me to be the bad guy. I like giving them that. We can make each other happy.
You know what I love? Not to interrupt you,
No,
but there's two roles women fit into.
Yeah.
Victim or villain.
I'm always the villain.
People will always see you as one thing. And the women who are victims are only victims because they don't have the guts to be the villain.
You should write a book. I will do the cover
Stand
illustration.
to be unliked. Another super profound thing that someone said to me, my manager, John Carabino, who is a charismatic gentleman and always has very wise words, had a big negotiation, and they did a piece in the Hollywood Reporter about it, and there was a lot of anxiety around it. And he said, "Are you prepared to be unpopular?" And I had no idea
point. Yeah.
what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, when this article comes out and they talk about how much money you make, you will instantly become the least popular person on set.
Oh,
No one will be happy for you.
right.
So you have to be okay with not being liked. And when you get to a certain level of success, if you're not okay with certain people not liking you, some people are not going to like you. If you can't handle that, then you'll only always be a victim.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I love that. And I think I was so naive. Listen, I went and I got my soapbox and I put my soapbox down and I got on my soapbox and I had some things to say. And I felt really passionate about this stuff and I felt so strongly that I also got a megaphone out on my soapbox. But there was no part of me that imagined a bad reaction. I felt really justified in how I felt about it, and where I was coming from. So it took me a minute to really stop being the victim because of the reaction that I got and finding and tuning out all that noise, because it's been most of my life, I think most women do, kind of being in that people-pleasing mode. It's really disconcerting when you feel like you have really displeased everybody, and it was not my intention to do so, but I had some things to say, and I didn't think I was gonna get such a strong reaction. And so it took me until like probably my mid to late 30s to really get back to tuning out all of the noise and going, no, but who are you? Who are you without all of the opinions of who you are? Are you this bad person? Are you ungrateful? Are you unkind? Are you unprofessional? Are you difficult? Are you these things? Because I was confused. I thought maybe I was, and I literally believed that version and felt such shame for such a long time, and then had to go, wait, who am I listening to? I'm not even listening to myself. I know who I am. I don't need anybody to tell me who I am. And there are very few people whose opinion of me really truly matters. And I would say that everybody in this world needs to find a way to let their opinions of themselves be the most important thing that matters. But I think that's difficult. There's going to be people in your life like your mother or your father or your best friend or your spouse whose opinion matters to you about what they think of you. But those are the few for me at this point. And I think that's when I got really comfortable with my role as the villain.
It's
and really
amazing.
enjoyed it.
Listen, Disney, are you listening? The most amazing thing about your soapbox and your megaphone is that you were just a little early because they came out with this thing, wait for it, where everybody's got their own box and their own megaphone and they get a blue check.
Yeah.
It's called Twitter. And everybody gets on their box with their megaphone and they tell everybody. They tell everybody off.
Yeah.
They tell everybody what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they should say, what they shouldn't say. Everybody's got an opinion now.
Yeah.
So you were just a little ahead of your time, lady.
Damn it, I should have waited for Twitter. It'd be huge.
Because now it's like the irony of all of that noise is we have that noise every day now.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion, everybody's slamming everybody's criticizing everybody for everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
But the difference is they're not beautiful and successful, and all of them can hide behind that phone and have opinions. Don't call us this, call us this. Don't address me as this, address me as that. Why did you let this happen? How could you people live this long and let these things happen to you? How did you women let all of this shit go down for so long? There's so much judgment and so much criticism on social media now. You were just one person. And somehow now, collectively, the whole world gets to criticize everything and tell everybody to fuck off. And it's okay. But when you did it,
they didn't like me.
They didn't like you.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
You're too hot, Heigl.
That
They
must
couldn't
be it.
handle it.
I tell myself when I go to sleep
No,
at
but
night.
listen, nobody likes a confident woman. They'd rather you be a woman looking for your confidence than you actually be a confident woman, because that makes them nervous.
I think for me, like, it was 40. I felt this, I don't know what it was, and maybe it's completely psychological, but I just felt that 40 was freedom, because I didn't have to be the young, sweet, naive, people-pleasing ingenue anymore. You know, like I'd outgrown
I don't know
it.
about the sweet part. I don't know that you were, I wouldn't describe you as sweet.
What are you trying to say?
Young ingenue. Gorgeous, ballsy, a lot of amazing adjectives.
Yeah.
But sweet
Yeah, wasn't really that.
wasn't
in my
really
lexicon.
one of them.
Not in those years.
And that's
no.
what people had a problem with. Sweet, they can handle.
Yeah.
Strong, they can't.
It was like I would not trade anything from my 20s back. Absolutely had no idea who I was and what I wanted and who I was supposed to be and who to make happy, and you know, just massive lack of self-confidence. And then Grey's hit, and the success of Grey's hit, and I think it was borrowed confidence.
You're also a child actor.
Yeah.
You also grew up on sets being told what to do, where to go, what to say, what to feel,
Yeah.
what to think, what to eat, when to sleep.
Yeah.
So the psychological accumulation of that control.
Yeah. I liked it because in a way it made life easier, right? Like somebody else is, I don't have to make any choices for myself.
But of
Somebody
course
else
it results in some sort of behavior.
But then you get older and you're like, they expect you to make some choices for yourself. And I'm like, what? And then Grey's hit and the success happened. And I think that gave me this confidence it was a false sense of confidence. So it wasn't rooted in anything real. It was rooted in something that couldn't and maybe wouldn't always last for me. Do you know? So then I started getting real mouthy because I did have a lot to say, and there were certain boundaries and things that I was not okay with being crossed. If you cannot stand up for yourself in this industry, very few people will stand up for you. So you'd better learn how to, and you better be okay with them not liking you for it.
And that's a privilege to even get to that position.
But you have to get there even before you...
There are so many...
I try to say this, and it just, it terrifies me. It terrifies me for the young girls. It terrified me for Roan and Allie on Firefly Lane. It terrifies me because I understand the position they're in. I understand it. I was there. I get it. I remember. But you have to fight, and you have to be brave. And if it all goes away because you fought and you were brave, then it all goes away because you know what? It will not be worth it otherwise. It will not be worth it. It just won't. It just won't. And if they cannot support our actors and our youth and these kids that are out here busting their ass to make something work and make some story beautiful, if they can't protect them, then I will. And I want them to protect themselves, because I don't care if it ends their career. I know they do, but it's not a career worth having if you're bending all the time.
The incredible amount of attention that you got very quickly is another thing that is sort of like a disease in this town and in this business, where everybody gets built up, built up, built up, built up, built up. They create this thing and then almost wait for something to happen. Not many people would know how to react to that much attention, that much focus, that much pressure, that it all of a sudden went from here to here. Mm-hmm. And it was like, who does know how to react or behave? Who can be the most gracious, perfect person when all that's, no, certainly some people are capable of it.
Yeah.
Okay, Zendaya is capable of it.
Yeah, she's great.
You know, perfect and gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the most gracious young woman, and has handled an enormous amount of attention and fame with incredibly impressive grace.
Yeah.
But not everybody can do that.
No.
And there has to be some forgiveness or some grace for not everybody being able to handle every situation perfectly. I've certainly never handled every situation perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see other people try to walk a mile in your shoes during that time. And let's see how they would have handled it.
Well,
because you literally have to be almost superhuman, like Zendaya is superhuman, I think.
clearly.
Me and my kids think she's
She might be an alien.
a superstar. Superhuman. But it's easier said than done, and it's easy to judge until you've walked a mile in those shoes. Well, this was fun.
It was so fun. I
Yeah.
love you. I love seeing your face. I love getting to sit across from you again. It's been 8 years.
I don't know, I'm not counting. I'm so
Okay.
young,
I think that's
don't
perhaps
count.
the
I'm
right
too busy.
choice.
I'm
Yeah.
too busy running circles, running in circles. And
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
love being here with you. I loved this conversation. I loved what we got to do together.
me too, it was so fun. And can we go eat? I'm starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to drink too, right? I am.